welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the work of Dr. Rangan Chatterjee.
Oh, yeah, I've been looking forward to this one.
You've been doing a ton of research on his stuff.
Yeah.
All about health and wellness, and I think we've got a really great mix of sources to kind of unpack here.
Yeah.
We've got some podcast episodes,
Right.
excerpts from his book, Feel Better in 5, and even that YouTube interview where he chats with Mel Robbins.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So,
I think that one's super interesting.
yeah, and one of the things that really stood out to me about his work is this 4 pillars approach, focusing on food and movement and sleep and relaxation.
Yeah, it seems to really resonate with people.
It does.
He's not offering those quick fixes that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
He's really trying to address those underlying causes.
Yeah, and that's what really caught my eye, too.
Okay.
He talks about how today's health challenges are often chronic, stemming from things like stress and our diet and lack of movement. And that's so different from the acute illnesses that people faced in the past.
Right.
But he also says that we have more control over these things than we think.
Yeah.
It made me think about how much our understanding of health has actually changed, even just in the last few decades.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how much the medical landscape has shifted.
Yeah.
Dr. Chatterjee uses this analogy of treating a cough 40 years ago.
Okay.
You diagnose it, prescribe medication, and you're done.
Right.
But now he estimates that 80 to 90% of what doctors are seeing is tied to lifestyle.
Wow.
That's a huge change.
It is. It makes you realize how powerful lifestyle changes can be,
Yeah,
even alongside conventional medicine.
absolutely.
So let's dive into those 4 pillars.
Okay,
And I think it makes sense to start with food.
sure.
What stood out to you about Dr. Chatterjee's approach to food as medicine?
Well, one thing that really struck me was his emphasis on minimally processed foods.
Okay.
He calls them one-ingredient foods.
I like that.
It's not about pushing a specific diet or anything. Right.
It's more about recognizing the power of whole natural foods.
Okay.
He also encourages people to read food labels carefully. So much of what's marketed as healthy is actually loaded with sugar and processed ingredients.
Yeah, and you highlighted how even seemingly small dietary tweaks can have a big impact.
Right.
Like, focusing on protein and healthy fats in the morning.
Right.
That can really help with energy levels and reducing cravings.
Yeah.
Instead of that classic sugary cereal.
Right. Right.
He suggests starting the day with something like leftover salmon and roasted vegetables.
I mean,
It's a complete
it's
shift in
different.
mindset.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's not just about the physical effects.
Right.
He also talks about how food impacts our mood and our focus and even our hunger cues.
Yeah.
He has that really brilliant 3F framework for managing cravings.
Yeah, the feel, feed, and find framework.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced those cravings at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's for sugary snacks or that extra glass of wine or even just endlessly scrolling on social media.
Yeah.
It's all kind of connected.
So the 3Fs are feel,
Yeah.
feed, and find.
Got it.
Before you give in to that craving, whatever it is, you ask yourself, what am I feeling?
Right.
Is this actually physical hunger?
Right.
Or am I trying to satisfy some kind of emotion?
I see.
Then you think about how that food or activity is feeding that feeling.
Okay.
And finally, and this is key,
Okay.
can you find an alternative behavior to address the root cause?
I think that's so important because it's so easy to fall into those patterns
It is.
of using food or other things to just kind of numb out uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
And I think recognizing those patterns and finding healthier coping mechanisms, whether it's a relaxing bath or a walk or connecting with a friend,
Right.
can make a huge difference.
It can.
And Dr. Chatterjee points out that we often underestimate the power of our environment, too.
Oh,
Our brains associate locations with certain behaviors.
yes.
So if you're used to snacking on the couch while watching TV, simply changing your environment might help break that habit.
Makes sense.
It's like how some people can't work from their bed
Right.
because their brain associates that space with sleep.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how much our surroundings can influence our actions.
It really does.
I also found his advice to not use up all your willpower at home really interesting.
Oh, tell me more about that.
He says if you don't want to eat it, don't bring it into the house.
Okay.
The same applies to technology.
Uh-huh.
If mindless scrolling is an issue, leave the phone in another room to charge overnight.
Yeah.
It's about setting yourself up for success.
Right.
And it ties back to that idea of self-compassion.
Okay.
Dr. Chatterjee emphasizes that it's not about being perfect. If you slip up, it's an opportunity to learn and adjust,
Yeah.
not a reason to beat yourself up.
I like that.
He makes the point that it's sometimes better to not start a diet at all
Yeah. Right.
than to start fail and then feel worse than before.
Oh, that's interesting.
You start associating these negative emotions with healthy changes, which can then discourage future efforts.
Right.
It's a great reminder to approach our well-being with kindness and understanding.
I agree.
And instead of seeking the right answer from some external expert,
Yeah.
he encourages us to cultivate our own inner expertise,
No,
to trust ourselves and our own experience.
I like that a lot.
So it's about paying attention to how different foods and habits and choices make us feel. He suggests trying something for at least 3 weeks,
Okay.
tuning in to your body's signals,
Right.
and then making adjustments based on your unique experience.
Makes sense.
So what works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
He even uses the example of fasting,
Mm.
which is obviously a hot topic these days.
It is.
The important questions aren't, is it good or bad, but for whom and in which context?
That's a really good point.
And that emphasis on individual needs and experimentation really ties into his approach to movement, too.
Oh, yeah. How so?
He's a big advocate for finding small ways to incorporate movement into our day,
Okay.
highlighting that even 5 minutes can make a difference.
Oh, wow.
His own keystone habit is a 5-minute strength training routine that he does every morning.
Every morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
In his pajamas while his coffee brews.
I love that.
It's a brilliant example of how to make exercise a seamless part of your routine.
Yeah, you don't need a fancy gym or a lot of time.
Exactly.
8 minutes.
And he found that committing to even that small amount of movement daily creates this ripple effect, building self-trust and momentum that carries over into other healthy choices.
That makes sense.
He had one patient who couldn't commit to going to the gym 3 times a week.
Okay.
It felt overwhelming.
Yeah, I could see that.
But when Dr. Chatterjee showed him some simple bodyweight exercises that he could do in his kitchen for just 5 minutes, twice a week,
Okay.
the patient was all in.
Wow, so just making it doable
Yeah.
made all the difference.
Exactly. And that small change then sparked other healthy habits.
That's amazing.
It shows how those small, consistent actions can really lead to big changes.
Yeah.
And it's a great reminder that we don't need to overhaul our entire lives overnight.
Right.
We can start small and build from there.
And this concept of building momentum through small steps also applies to his approach to sleep.
Okay.
He believes that good sleep begins in the morning.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, he highlights the importance of getting natural light exposure first thing in the morning to regulate your circadian rhythm,
Right.
your body's natural sleep-wake cycle.
Uh-huh.
He acknowledges that this isn't always possible for everyone.
Of course.
So he suggests alternatives like using a light therapy lamp.
Okay, so it's all about giving your body those clear signals.
Exactly.
But what about winding down at night? What kind of evening routine does he recommend? So it seems like creating a calming pre-sleep routine is really key. Does Dr. Chatterjee have any specific recommendations for that?
He suggests creating a mental switch about an hour before bed.
Okay.
So no work emails or stressful conversations or anything that might kind of activate that stress response.
So it's about consciously shifting gears and signaling to your body that it's time to wind down.
Exactly. And he also tries to limit screen time and leaves his phone in another room overnight
Oh, wow.
to minimize distractions and temptations.
Yeah, makes sense.
Creating a calming environment is also key.
Yeah, dimming the lights and lowering the noise level.
Right.
Making your bedroom a true sanctuary for sleep.
Exactly. He even recommends simple practices like taking a relaxing bath
Okay.
or reading a book to kind of prepare for a good night's rest.
Nice.
And he's a big advocate for breath work,
Oh, yeah.
especially the 3-4-5 breath.
What is that?
So you inhale for a count of 3,
Okay.
hold for 4, and exhale for 5.
Okay.
Just a few rounds of that can really calm the mind and body.
That's great. And speaking of calming the mind and body, this seems like a great transition into the fourth pillar,
Okay.
relaxation.
Yeah.
Dr. Chatterjee really emphasizes that relaxation is about stress management.
Uh-huh.
And he doesn't shy away from some pretty startling statistics.
No, he doesn't. It's really eye-opening. He points out that 80 to 90% of what brings people to the doctor
Wow.
is in some way related to stress.
It's a lot.
It is,
Right.
and the World Health Organization has even called stress the health epidemic of the 21st century.
It's true. It makes you realize how pervasive stress is in our modern lives.
It does.
But what's fascinating is that Dr. Chatterjee describes stress as our body's response to perceived danger,
Okay.
often triggered by things that aren't actually life-threatening.
Oh, interesting.
He uses the example of our ancestors encountering a predator
Uh-huh.
that fight-or-flight response was essential for survival.
Yeah, of course.
But today, we're bombarded with emails and deadlines and social media notifications.
Oh my gosh.
All these things keep that stress response activated, even though we're not actually facing real physical danger.
It's true.
And it's that chronic low-grade stress that Dr. Chatterjee links to so many health issues.
It is.
From weight gain and fatigue to anxiety and depression.
It's incredible how this primal response can have such a profound impact on our modern well-being.
Yeah, and he actually shares a personal story about developing chronic back pain while caring for his ailing father.
Oh, wow.
He realized that the back pain was a physical manifestation of the emotional burden that he was carrying.
Oh, that's powerful.
And the tightness in his back only released at his father's funeral.
Wow.
As if his subconscious was finally letting go of that responsibility.
It really highlights how closely intertwined our physical and emotional health truly are.
Yeah.
And this experience really shaped Dr. Chatterjee's understanding of stress and physical symptoms and the importance of self-care.
Especially for caregivers.
Especially for caregivers. He actually approached caring for his aging mother very differently.
Okay, how so?
He emphasized setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care and asking for help.
So important.
He found that by taking care of himself, he was a better, more present caregiver for his mother.
It's a powerful reminder that self-care isn't selfish.
It's not.
It allows us to show up more fully for others.
Exactly.
Dr. Chatterjee also talks about how our nervous system can actually impact our perception.
Oh, that's interesting.
Essentially, if we're chronically stressed, we're more likely to see situations as threats, even if they're not objectively dangerous.
Oh, I see.
He uses the example of reading the same email on a Monday morning after a restful weekend versus a Friday afternoon after a stressful week.
Oh, yeah.
Our interpretation is likely to be very different based on our current state of mind.
So our stress levels can actually distort our perception of reality.
Exactly. And that's where practices like mindfulness and meditation and breath work become so crucial.
They do. They help us regulate our nervous system, allowing us to navigate challenges with more calm and resilience.
It's about creating that pause between stimulus and response.
Right.
Giving us the power to choose how we want to react.
Yes.
Rather than simply reacting automatically.
I like that.
Dr. Chatterjee also challenges us to think about the way we seek knowledge.
Yeah.
In our quest for health and happiness, we often focus on acquiring more and more external information.
Reading books and listening to podcasts.
Exactly, following experts on social media.
Right.
But he emphasizes that knowledge is only powerful when it's applied.
That's a good point.
He encourages us to cultivate what he calls inner expertise.
What does that mean?
That ability to tune into our own bodies, understand our unique needs, and make choices that align with our values.
He's suggesting we become our own health detectives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of getting caught up in the dogma surrounding various diets, he encourages us to try them. Pay attention to how they make us feel.
Yeah. Makes sense, because what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. We all have unique bodies and lifestyles and preferences.
Right.
It's about finding what feels right for you, not blindly following someone else's rules.
And this principle of self-awareness extends to all areas of our lives.
It does.
Not just our physical health.
It's about noticing how different choices impact our energy levels, our mood, our sleep, our relationships, our overall sense of well-being.
Dr. Chatterjee believes that cultivating this inner expertise is essential for creating a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful.
And speaking of meaning,
Okay.
he highlights what he believes is the most important daily practice for anyone in the 21st century.
Oh, wow. What's that?
A practice that can seem almost counterintuitive in our hyper-connected world.
I have a feeling I know where this is going.
What do you think it is?
Solitude.
Yes.
It's something that's really resonated with me throughout our deep dive so far.
He emphasizes that solitude isn't about isolating yourself or becoming a hermit.
Right.
It's about intentionally creating space to connect with yourself without distractions.
So it's not the same as loneliness?
Exactly. It's more about choosing to be alone with your own thoughts and feelings.
He says that in today's world, we rarely give ourselves the gift of true solitude.
That's true.
We're constantly bombarded with information and notifications and demands on our attention.
That's like our minds are always buzzing.
Yeah.
Ever truly getting a chance to settle.
And he believes that this lack of solitude can have a profound impact on our mental, emotional, and even physical health.
It's like we're losing touch with ourselves, with our own inner wisdom.
He describes how our thoughts and feelings and actions are often shaped by the constant stream of external input we're exposed to.
Right, social media algorithms and news headlines.
Exactly, advertising messages, the opinions of others.
Yeah, and when we don't create space for solitude, we risk losing sight of our own values and priorities and our own inner compass.
It's like we're being swept along by the current rather than consciously choosing our own direction.
So what does a daily practice of solitude look like in practice?
Well, it can take many forms.
Yeah, I'm imagining.
Absolutely. Dr. Chatterjee says it could be something as simple as taking a 10-minute walk in nature without your phone or headphones, just allowing your mind to wander.
I like that.
Or journaling.
Oh, yeah.
Which can be a powerful way to process thoughts and emotions.
Right.
Gain clarity and self-awareness.
It's about creating that space for reflection and inner dialogue.
Exactly. He also recommends breath work.
Yeah.
Even just a few minutes of conscious breathing, like that 3-4-5 breath we talked about, can have a profound calming effect on the nervous system.
It's about hitting that reset button on our internal state.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that solitude doesn't have to be this big time-consuming event.
Okay.
Even just 5 minutes a day can make a difference.
Wow.
It's about that commitment to creating space for reflection and renewal.
And he believes solitude is key for nurturing our creativity and intuition, and ultimately for making choices that lead to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
It is. And now, before we wrap up part 2, I want to leave you with something to consider.
Right.
Dr. Chatterjee stresses that a daily practice of solitude can be incredibly beneficial, but it can also feel challenging, especially when we're accustomed to constant stimulation.
Yeah, I can see that.
So what small step can you take today to incorporate more solitude into your life?
That's a great question.
Think about it, and we'll pick up right here in part 3.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I feel like I needed that little break.
Me too.
Just to disconnect and be present.
Yeah, it is remarkable how even a short pause can shift our perspective.
It really is. And speaking of perspective, one of the things that stands out to me about Dr. Chatterjee is his holistic view of health. Seeing that interconnectedness of our physical and mental and emotional well-being.
Right. He's not just treating symptoms. He's really trying to address those root causes.
And it really resonates with what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
The power of small changes and self-awareness.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that true health isn't just the absence of disease. It's about vitality and resilience and a sense of wholeness.
So thriving, not just surviving.
Exactly.
I love that distinction. And I feel like he's suggesting that thriving requires a shift in focus.
Oh, okay.
From seeking external validation to cultivating internal validation.
I see what you mean.
He points out how bombarded we are with messages about how we should look and behave.
Oh, yeah.
And what we should achieve.
It's true.
And it's so easy to get caught up in chasing those external measures of success. And in the process, lose sight of our own unique gifts and values.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly trying to fit ourselves into a mold that wasn't made for us.
Exactly. And Dr. Chatterjee encourages us to question those external messages and cultivate self-acceptance.
Embracing our imperfections?
Yes, and our unique journey.
It seems like that's a recurring theme with him.
It is.
Trusting ourselves and our own experiences.
Yeah, it's a powerful message, especially in a world that often feels so focused on comparison and competition.
It is.
You know, it brings to mind something Dr. Chatterjee said that really resonated with me.
Oh, what's that?
He said that his work isn't just about improving people's physical health. It's about creating a more compassionate world.
That's beautiful.
It is, and I think it really connects back to what we've been saying. When we prioritize our own well-being, we create a positive ripple effect that extends to those around us.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we're taking care of ourselves, we have more to give to others.
Dr. Chatterjee observes that when we're stressed or overwhelmed or depleted, we're more likely to be reactive and disconnected. But when we're grounded and energized, we have more capacity for empathy and kindness and compassion.
It highlights the connection between our personal well-being and the well-being of our communities and even the world at large.
I agree.
It's inspiring to think that small acts of self-care can contribute to a more compassionate world.
It is. And as we wrap up our deep dive into Dr. Chatterjee's work,
I
want to leave you with one of his most powerful statements.
All right. I'm listening.
He says, I don't care how bad you think your life is. I absolutely believe in you.
Wow, what a message of hope and possibility.
He's seen firsthand how small, consistent changes can lead to remarkable transformations.
Yeah.
And he believes anyone can create lasting change no matter how stuck or overwhelmed they might feel.
It's a message that's both empowering and liberating.
It is.
So as we go forth in this deep dive,
Yes.
let's remember,
Okay.
we are capable of creating lasting change.
We are.
It starts with one small step, one 5-minute action, one moment of solitude.
We love that.
Trust yourself,
Yeah.
listen to your body, and embrace the journey.